Hello there and welcome back to the Music Career Show. So today's guest is a member of the band ASOMVEL, who are a four-piece rock and roll band all the way from Englandshire. They are absolute social media wizards and their channel is all about giving an inside look into the day-to-day life of being a real-life working rock star. I've been looking forward to this one for a good long while now. So this is Ralph Robinson. Good afternoon, Ralph. How are you now?
Hello, how you doing, Barry? You all right, mate?
Absolutely smashing. It's boiling in Aberdeen, so it is. Whereabouts in the world are you?
Harrogate, of all places, where those pesky Tories live.
Oh,
Not me, though,
no, not you.
I mean, I have got air conditioning in here, but, worked hard for that.
You don't strike me as a Tory, so we're all good.
I have to say that when I say I'm from Harrogate, because, I'm not from one of your typical, working class cities that, people think it's cool,
All right, good stuff.
Liverpool or something,
Yeah, well, fair enough. I'm glad we've gotten that straightened out. So if anyone was hoping to hear some good solid Toriness,
It's not happening.
bye. Anywho, so
We've lost them. That's half your listeners gone, mate.
we're fucked. We're fucked out.
Scared them off.
I know. All right. Thanks very much for listening to the Music Career Show. Anyway, right. Before we go too far down that fucking rabbit hole, anyway, Ralph, for those that maybe haven't met you just yet, why don't you say hello to the nice people and introduce yourselves to them?
Yeah, I'm Ralph from ASOMVEL, the singer in the band, the bass player in the band as well, multi-talented. And yeah, so we're a four-piece rock and roll band, the three of us are family members, actually, so that's interesting. It's like Hansenvel, Yeah, that's us really in a nutshell. There's plenty more to grumble on about, but I'm sure we'll get into that,
Oh, we definitely will get there. We definitely will. I love that one. It's like Hansen.
Yeah.
Do for the longest time, I thought the keyboard player, so like the main singer, was a girl. And I think everybody in the world thought that he was a girl.
Very beautiful. We're not that lucky, so.
Yeah. They are all, in fairness, Hansen are probably the most handsome, most beautiful men on the planet. To be fair to them, God love them. But anyway, before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's reverse back a bit. So you said that you're lead singer, bass player, multi-talented, all around sound lad for ASOMVEL. Where did music all start for you then, Ralph?
In the crib, really, mate. I mean, I was born for this shit, for better or worse. I mean, it was the band was started by Lenny, who's my old man, and JJ Winter, my uncle. So this was started. It was on they were rehearsing in the loft in a little council estate back in 1993. The band was formed.
Right.
So I was born in 1996, right?
Okay.
So sort of hearing ASOMVEL through the ceiling, that was my sort of nap time lullaby, I suppose. So I've just grown up around it. Like it's normal to me. This sort of abnormal bullshit is normal.
That's your normality.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's it's an interesting story. So my uncle passed away in 2010 in a car accident. So at that point, I mean, I'm like the number one ASOMVEL fan at that point. So I'm like, well, it's got to keep going, And here we are, still doing it.
And we're definitely gonna get stuck into that as we go on. I didn't realize that Lenny was your old lad.
Yeah, it's a family affair, and then you got Stell on guitar as well. He's my brother. So it's like three shades of Robinson all in there.
Right. I didn't realize you were all that closely related. I knew you were related, but I thought it was more like you were just cousins, or I didn't realize you were all that closely related.
Yeah, it's an interesting story.
It must make for an interesting dynamic for sure.
It's good because we're all working for the same sort of vision.
Yeah.
We've got it ingrained in us. I mean, me and Stell, we've been brainwashed with this very particular vision. From way back when, and then so you have my uncle pass away, and it's like, all right then, roll your sleeves up and get to work because we're not going to take this lying down,
Well, fair play to you. That's amazing. That's absolutely fantastic. And then, so how about when you started playing music? Was bass your first instrument, or how did that happen?
God, I mean, I recall back in the day, I must have been, maybe 9 or 10 years old. Got a musical family, and so I think I got a guitar for Christmas one year, some cheapo, gear for music type thing, something I can't remember, but and I remember learning Highway to Hell, and it was actually Stell, who's the guitarist, the rhythm guitarist now. He was actually teaching me Highway to Hell, before I must have still been in primary school, and I sort of got about as far as that, and I think just being a young kid, I had a bit of a passion for like skateboarding as well, and you're just sort of trying stuff, aren't you? You know, and it's like, and it wasn't till maybe 3 or 4 years later, I would have been about 13, I think, when I got my first bass, and that really, it was straight away like, yep, this is the one.
That just fit like a glove.
This is a lot easier. I think it was probably the mindset.
Yeah.
And then I found out that it wasn't easier, but I was a little bit more pubescent at that point, so it was fine. You know, I was ready for the challenge, I suppose.
Good stuff. What was that first bass?
I remember it had like a shiny, I think it was Gear for Music logo on the top, on the headstock. Gear for Music, or
it's like a badge.
Yeah, it was something like that anyway, like just a black and white, you know, standard affair. I remember I earned that with, I used to go and washing cars with my cousin who I used to be in a band with. Another family affair that was inspired by ASOMVEL.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up like listening to ASOMVEL and absolutely loving it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think it was, that's right. It would have been just after 2010, after my uncle passed away. I was only like, what, 13 years ago? I was like 14.
Yeah.
Like 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Which is when I got into bass. I have no idea why, and I can't really remember. It's all a bit hazy. What sort of inspired me to say, I'm going to start doing this? But like me and my cousin, we said, yeah, let's start a band. I don't know. It was just the right time, and so we said, well, we need instruments. So we went around washing cars, knocking on people's doors. We had this little company we started, about 14 years old, double bubble, just two idiots.
Very good.
two bubble heads. You know, I still got the T-shirt somewhere. A really badly printed T-shirt where we used to just go around washing cars and that, you know. And we made enough money to get this bass guitar and get him a guitar, and eventually managed to save up and get a Marshall stack. And that was like, holy hell, like this is working, you know. Got a bass and a Marshall stack, good to go. And then I entered into the world of finance and things like that, you know, like when I got a proper job.
Yeah.
I used to wash this local greengrocer's van, and I must have been good enough at it that he said, oh, do you want a job like in the back, you know, working with vegetables and eventually sort of get into the front of the shop, putting all the veg out and just working in a greengrocer's when I was like 15. So, you know, I don't know if that's legal or not.
It happened.
Are you allowed to work at that? It felt like
I think you can. I think the minimum wage is something like you can work from like the age of 14, I think, but the minimum wage is like £3 or £4 an hour, something like that.
Yeah, I was earning like peanuts, you know, but just leveling up the gear the whole time, you know, and using that as a sort of a yardstick of how far along we are, you know, and because talent wasn't forthcoming, you know, like musical ability wasn't leveling up at that point. So it was like, oh, well, at least we got a few more Marshalls to sound bad through, you know.
Aye, people can hear me.
That was great. Say what?
People can hear me sounding bad from further away. It's great.
Exactly.
I love it. And then, so you're saying that musical talent wasn't overly forthcoming. That, you know yourself, it's not to be all and end all. But like, so how did you get over that? Then did you go for lessons? What did you do? How did you end up learning? Because you're already at a decent level now. You know what you're at now. You had to get there somewhere. Like,
I think being inspired by JJ, my uncle, you know, like he was the epitome of just, you know, cool as fuck, rock and roll, didn't give a fuck. You know, I've got a picture of him here, actually. There he is.
By JJ, by.
That's the loft where they used to rehearse.
I love that.
You know, it's proper like DIY, like totally pissing off neighbors off.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's a little ASOMVEL logo behind him. You won't be able to see it, but yeah, this would have been early days, and he was never very musical at all. You know, he was just, and I don't think he made any apologies for that, and I don't think he gave a fuck because he was the coolest motherfucker in existence, hands down.
Yeah.
When he stepped on that stage, it's like, what a fucking guy, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like that passion for it, that belief, the meaning in the lyrics. You know, what are we trying to say? Like that all to me, even to this day, like that is head and shoulders above musical ability. You know, it's like,
oh yeah,
that's good, but if you ain't got the fucking, you know, the why, the fucking reason to do it, and and the message you're trying to deliver and how you deliver it, that's way more important.
Far more important.
And so growing up with that kind of attitude being around us, we were just happy to play the simple stuff, you know. Even now, we just play simple stuff and we try and play it well, but it's simple stuff. We don't need to be like Mozart or anything like that.
It's so funny you say that. I literally had this conversation not long ago. I went to see Elton John in Aberdeen. It actually literally is across the road from where I live, and I was so impressed with exactly what you're saying. Like, it wasn't complicated. It was nothing. Like,
Yeah.
it sounded immense, but it was nothing complicated about it at all. It was 4 or 5 chords. It was pentatonic scales, just real simple stuff, but done to perfection. And there is so much to be said for that. I'd rather listen to that all day than listen to like just mind-boggling virtuosity. Do you know what I mean? There's a place for it, but there's so much more of a place, I think, for just doing the simple things really, really, really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's the way we do it,
Yeah.
But that's because it's the only way we can do it,
Well, I was gonna say,
you've got to play to your strengths, haven't you?
Yeah, well, exactly. It sounds like it was that this is for most of same as for most of us. It was more of a vocation than a choice. I didn't. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't. I didn't have a choice in being a musician. It's all I can do. Do you know what I mean? And it sounds like you guys are the same. So that's great stuff. Personal influences then. So like I know, and we're going to get into this, but I know you guys get compared an awful lot to the likes of Motorhead, the likes of Airborne, the likes of whoever else, and I'm sure you can see why. But who are they actually your personal influences, or who personally influenced you apart from your uncle?
Yeah, that's the thing really. Is a lot of times we'll get accused. Well, me personally, I'll get accused of sort of ripping everything from Lemmy. And I think that kind of glosses over the main important point, which is, I suppose, the intent, right? So let's get that point passed through. Okay, fine. I'm 100%. I look like Lemmy. Let's just give that a pass, right? For the sake of this argument.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that I got it all from Lemmy, because it's like my old man who I grew up around, who's called Lenny. Quite funny, he was inspired by like Fast Eddie Clarke and Lemmy and that whole era of Motorhead, and that's just kind of what he grew up, listening to and stuff like that. So I've sort of got it secondhand. A lot of what I've got from Lemmy has come sort of secondhand through my old man.
Yeah, and that was just it. Yeah.
So the intent there is not to sort of plagiarize Motorhead just for I want to be Lemmy. It's just that's just how it naturally turned out. Like, growing up around these fucking nutcases who all wear like bootcut jeans and cowboy boots and bullet belts, and for some reason I grew up and I said, I want to do that. Yeah, and so there's a great influence from Lemmy for sure, but there's this sort of spectrum of influences that can be mistaken as it's just Lemmy, But that's just the curse, I suppose, of being born into a family where this sort of thing is normal,
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said being accused of ripping off Lemmy, because there's one thing in like wearing your inspiration on your sleeve, do you know what I mean? But there's another thing of people actually, like what you're saying, like putting that on you and putting their interpretation of it on you. And
do you know what? Like, I don't really blame them if they're seeing like a 15-second TikTok where this guy is playing a Rickenbacker and singing with a throaty voice, and it sounds like Motorhead. Who does this guy think he is? But like, they don't know like the 30 years of history that's gone into this band and getting me to this point. Like, that I can't really help. Like a lot of those influences, they've been around me since like day one. Yeah. I had no say in the matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just the way that it works. But you guys are very, very good, I think, at addressing that and dealing with that. Is that something that you intentionally do, or like how do you go about it?
I don't know. Like, it first started when we put out the World Shaker video on Facebook. When Facebook was still good for like organic reach, we put that on there, and it was getting just shared around, like 10,000 shares on it from like, and we had like no fans at the time, comparatively. And it was just getting spread around. And of course, that's when you get these these hate comments and stuff like that, and it was, you know, it was a new thing for us really, and I think we'd just sort of reply to him in a way that was like, you know, I think put your ego to the side and just deal with the facts. A lot of the times people will be hating and you can win them over. As long as you don't come back with more hate and start, you know, like you can make funny videos out of it, for example, but they don't have to be driven by an ego reaction. They can just be like, if you want to make a point about something, it doesn't have to be a point that's born out of a desperate need to be right, you know, or it's just, you know, the fun videos I think are where it's at because they get a good result.
Yeah.
So if we do like funny videos now replying to a hate comment, it's probably 1% because the comment has pissed us off, and 99% because we know it's good for business. You know,
it certainly is. I think you guys are. Yeah, you guys are sort of champions of like dealing with the hate. It's I was thinking about this before I came out to do the recording. I was like, it's a subject that I've spoken about, or it's a subject that has come up far too often in recent podcasts, and it's a shame that it has to come up. But I think you guys are the way you deal with it is brilliant, because it does actually serve you, I think, because some of those videos, like you put one up there the other day, and I can't remember what you were saying, but you basically had, you were looking up, you had the camera on top of your amp and you were looking up and being like, don't be a dick, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because there's an awful lot to be said for just ignoring it and not giving that person the 15 seconds that they want. But there's also something to be said for putting them in their box or putting them back in their place in the nicest, most funny way possible. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many videos that either wouldn't have been made, or wouldn't have taken off if there wasn't hate. You know, like we've had videos. There was a video of us like loading up the van with a load of marshals, and we're saying like, "Oh, we do this for every gig." Like people think being in a band is glamorous until the full-blown house move you've got to do for every gig. And so of course you get all the comments, "Oh, you don't need to do all this. This is pointless. Like, you guys are stupid. You don't need all that gear. Blah blah blah." Like that video wouldn't have done half as well if people weren't upset by it in some way. So like, I'm thankful for it. And then of course you get the comments on there, "Oh, I was looking for a video idea. You know, we do a video every day, and someone's just giving me a perfect excuse to like make this point." Because if you make the point without the justification for making it, you look like a weirdo. You know, no, trust me, guys, I can use marshals. I was like, well, no one's saying you can't. You know, but to have that other side to strengthen it, that is really, it's great for us, you know, and I think it's probably great for our fans to watch, because people naturally like a little bit of drama, you know. Unfortunately, it seems like when you look at the numbers, people like the drama, you know.
It is.
It's a terrible thing, but it's the way it is, you know.
It is a terrible thing, but that's what I was saying. There was a guy on called Ben Cody a month ago, and he made such a good point in that he knows when a video that he's put up hits properly when he starts getting hate.
Yeah,
it's like his thing is that he smiles when he's playing guitar, like Eddie Van Halen used to do, and people are like, "Oh, stop ripping off Eddie Van Halen." And you're just like, "Can you just fucking not? You just, do you know what I mean? Just fucking enjoy it."
Hey, stop smiling, mate. I saw that.
Okay, stop being so fucking happy, you little prick. You. Do you know what I mean? But it's like it's so unnecessary. But you have such a healthy way of dealing with it. So like I said, you guys are absolute champions of dealing with hate, and you are fantastic at TikTok. Was that like, did you sit down and plan, this is how we're going to get our name out there, or did it just sort of naturally evolve?
The whole TikTok thing, I mean, we've been on there for, probably if you look back, you'll see some videos from like 2016, like something like that, where you kind of see there'll be bands on there that post once every month, and it's crap, you know. It's crap, like some of that stuff I would love to go back, but at the same time I wouldn't love to go back and see what those initial posts were, because they're just crap. And so we were doing that, which is like, I think it's all we kind of could do at the time. The drummer we had at the time was down in London, and we were fairly tight as a band. So we sort of only get together and rehearse when we needed to for like a gig or a tour or whatever. And so we couldn't really like get content as a band that often. Yeah. And to be fair, when we could get the content as a band, if we had a rehearsal, we'd get a bit. But it wasn't like a full-blown daily assault like it is now. And I think that's thanks largely to the fact that we've got our own studio now. So,
Yeah.
you know, having that space to be able to create the content, whether the full band are there or not, you know, I can do stuff. Lenny can do little guitar tutorials and stuff like that. Or, you know, it's a place that we can go. It's not like we've got 2 hours and then the next band are in.
Yeah.
You know, that's really difficult. And it just sort of lined up with us getting our own space and being like, okay, we can do this properly now. I'm like, right, I'm going to do a post today and just say you're going to do it. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, I've got like 3 ideas, you know?
Yeah.
But I'd seen enough, like, you know, marketing experts and all these music mogul knobheads on TikTok saying that, basically, you know, post once a day. It's basically saying, if you don't post once a day, you're scum. You know, it's basically that kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to be scum. So I'll start trying to do that. But I also don't want it to be absolutely unbearably bad, which it was, to be fair, for a fair while. But and that's the secret, really, isn't it? It's like, just keep doing it. And that's why doing it once a day is, I would advise it if you can. And that's the big part, if you can, because it's complete torture if you don't set things up to make it easier, you know?
Exactly. So it's an interesting space that all of us musicians now live in that we're not just musicians. It's not that it's not enough anymore, but in some ways it is, that it's not just enough anymore to be a musician. You also have to blur the lines of being like a content creator or whatever you want to, or an influencer,
totally
or whatever
agree.
those other ones are. So you're saying, so would your advice then to someone that's kind of maybe trying to follow in your footsteps or trying to make it?
My advice would be don't, first of all. Don't bother.
Yeah, don't bother. Stick to stacking vegetables, and you'll be much happier. You'll live longer, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you were to give advice to someone, would it be to focus as much on content creation, or would it be to kind of do content creation as a tick box, or what do you think? Where's the balance, basically?
I mean, I would say that what I've learned, because I have learned a lot, because I used to think that putting out a physical CD and not being on Spotify and not showing any preview of that physical CD before you ask people to buy it was normal. In my first band, when I was like 15 or 16 or whatever, you know. So I would say what I've learned is that just doing that kind of music side of it is not even close to enough. And if there's anybody that is just good at music, and if you could get the world's best songwriter and the world's most charismatic human being in this day and age, and if they're not going to show that, because that's how you show it now, is social media every day. It's not even enough to just show it like once every 2 months. You have to show like every day that you're good and you deserve a spot, you know. And like, I would say it doesn't really matter how talented you are on the music side of things, and how much you really don't want to do the other 90% of it. I would say the 90% of it is the other stuff. As much as you don't want to do that, you better learn how to do it, or find somebody who can help you do it, or, you know, work that out. Because I feel like just saying like, oh, I love music, so I want to be a musician. You know, what you got, writing songs, learning your instrument, and performing. You know, like those things are just like so minimal at this point. I believe
they count for so little.
And yeah, you should be a little bit annoyed about that, but please, for the love of God, accept it as that's the way it is. Because if you're sort of you know, trying to fight against that and do it any other way, but the minimization of that part of it, if you're trying to do it any other way, then you're just gonna be bitter, because it ain't gonna work.
Yeah, it is. It is such a shame that nowadays that like we're saying, the actual talent and the work you put into learning your craft and all that, it counts for so little nowadays compared to what it counted even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. Even I think post or pre-pandemic, it was heading this way, but I think the pandemic, and this is
So it sealed the deal.
It really did. That's the best way to put it. It sealed the deal. It accelerated all of this stuff that content creation. It's like nowadays, it's like we're saying, you're not a musician. Yes, fair enough. You play music, but you're a content creator, and your content happens to be music. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah,
So
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
yeah. So like, in saying that, then what does a day in the life for the lead singer of ASOMVEL look like?
Well,
There's one for TikTok.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it varies. It's we're trying to get more organized because we've got this album coming up.
Yeah.
So, you got well, where do we start? A day in the life. Well, for context, then we've got like a family business, so it's like a family band, but we've also got like a family business, which has enabled us. I think about 7 years ago, I used to work in a greetings card warehouse, packing orders.
Oh, wow.
And sort of stepped out of that to put some time into growing the business and just trying to think, how can we make this band work?
Yeah.
That's every decision is centered around that. Freeing up a little bit more time to focus on the band. So, once we've got the necessaries of boring day job bullshit done,
Yeah.
then, it's sort of try and have as much time as you can to, get content ideas down. So just this morning, getting all the ideas together that we're going to film this week. So try and get all your filming done in the day, usually. Like I was going to do some today actually, but I've got another meeting after this.
All right.
Which sounds exciting, but I don't think I can tell you what it is. But yeah, good news.
Oh,
So the
that
good
is.
news is
I'm
no
glad.
content today.
Oh, well, I'm glad. I'm glad that it's like a meeting about like the band and not a meeting
Yeah.
about like greetings cards.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's really just breaking it down into film the content, edit the content, try and get that done. It's like get that out of the way,
Yeah.
in as short a time as possible, which is so much easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
My aim this week is so everything done by Wednesday, right? So like then Thursday, Friday, we've got this album coming up. So we've got this big whiteboard downstairs with the track lists that we're working towards and what we still need to do in terms of like the song structures and the lyrics and what's needed.
Yeah.
And you want to get your content out the way so you can get on with the actual bit of being in a band. But it's not the other way around. We're not doing that because that can go on forever, this creative kind of songwriting. You just be there all week doing that.
Yeah.
So it's like get the boring stuff you have to do, and it's not necessarily boring, but as many people will view it, that's your other part about being in a band, I suppose. It's not the main course, is it?
No, which again, it's kind of blurring the lines, because I'd imagine if we were to take the take the Motorhead kind of comparison again, full sure, back in 1980, Lenny and the boys were not sitting around planning what content are we going to film this week.
No,
all that. Do you know what I mean? That would have been done by the, I don't know, by the record label or the man or whoever the content creator version of 1980 version of those people were. They were handling
Top of the Pops was probably about it, wasn't it?
Well, exactly.
Simple,
that's it. Again, it's the modern day that, like, as well as content creator, you also have to be your own admin. You also have to be your own fucking manager. You also have to be your own this, that, and the other. You've sort of accumulated 5 or 6 different roles within your role that have nothing to do with the actual job that you're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as much as you can just not resist that, go with it, lean into it, learn it. Like I've learned how to edit videos. I've learned how to animate. I've learned how to do these stupid captions that you need to do.
Yeah.
And there'll always be some new thing that you have to kind of learn.
Yeah.
And you cannot resent it, because ultimately, if you stand up and say, I want to be a fucking star and I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that, then do it, but you have to accept that what it takes is these things. Instead of like, oh, well, maybe we can do it without that. It's like deep down, full well you should be posting more or whatever, there's stuff about it that feels like I shouldn't have to do that. I just want to be a musician, like fucking hell.
I know, but gone are the days, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
It is tough. It certainly is. And then, so what is your process for like recording? Like I'm asking on behalf of the person out there that's listening, wondering how you batch record and how you batch edit and things along those lines. What sort of stuff do you use, gear wise, software wise?
Yeah, well, my sister's got the new iPhone, right, which has got like a really good camera on it, makes everything look, with a soft focus, like you've got there,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, we're yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, hey, Van Halen phone cover, mate.
Van
Stop
Halen up
smiling.
there. I yeah,
Stop smiling, mate. You're ripping.
I know I'm ripping off Eddie. No, I'm like if Ben Cody isn't the biggest Van Halen fan in the world, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, big style. Every single thing I have is Eddie Van Halen, down to this notebook that I take notes on that cost me 16 of the hardest pounds I've ever spent in my
Wow.
entire life, but worth every single penny. And once
Coloured
it runs
water.
through, I'm going buying another one.
Wow.
So there you go. Sorry, though, complete
So
another
yeah.
Van Halen tangent there.
Well, we use like a phone like that,
Yeah,
to film it all. I've been more and more these days editing on like an app called Splice on my phone. I used to do it in Premiere Pro. I still do a lot in Premiere Pro.
yeah,
But there's stuff that's easy enough that's like, oh, I don't need to, put it on my computer and we transfer it to myself or whatever.
yeah,
It's all bullshit method you have to use. It's like, oh,
yeah.
this is easy. I can just tap on my phone. It feels less like work, if you're tapping on your phone.
100%.
So yeah, we'll get them all recorded on there. I mean, let's have a look. Let's see what I got in my notes up. Right, so I keep them all on here. So I went to go pick up a new Marshall cab actually on Saturday. PayPal credit to thank for that. So we filmed a bit, like it's a bit of like a vlog thing. Oh, we're going to pick up a new cab.
Yeah.
So I've got that to edit. What have I got? Last night's rehearsal to edit, and then we've got a couple more to film. So we've got. I said, "Oh, we're just getting this new cab," and this is where the immense brain power of the ASOMVEL content machine has to kick in to squeeze every drop of creative juice out of whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
So we just got this new cab, and I said, "Oh well, we've got all the ASOMVEL logo like painted on all the stuff, so it don't get misplaced at gigs or it looks cool as fuck."
Yeah.
Oh well, let's do a video on how we do that. We've got the stencil there and all the different. Okay, well that's a video. Great, going to Lenny's workshop and show how he does it.
Yeah.
So we're going to film that. We're going to do that today. We might still have time after this meeting. And then we got someone commented, and this is where you get the inspo from. Somebody commented, "Oh, I like the Evertune bridge on that guitar. They're really cool." It's like, okay, well we'll reply to that comment with a video showing like why we use it, and what result it gives us, and it's an insight in it,
Which guitar has the Evertune on it? I've not seen that one.
Yeah, it's the actually Lenny's and Stell's have just been fitted. Both the Les Pauls just been fitted with Evertune. So, Lenny's a big Evertune believer. So, I mean, I'm a bass player. I don't really know much about anything with more than 4 strings, but it seems to get a result. Like I've not heard him go out of tune. So
you don't need to worry about it.
yeah, it does its job.
Yeah.
And so it'd be stuff like that. Somebody said, "Oh, what's an affordable recording setup for drums?" So I messaged Ryan last night and I said, "Oh, next time you come down, we'll do a little video on your drum gear and stuff like that." So that's on the notes app, ready to go.
Yeah.
And then I've got a list of stuff to edit, and it's just trying to sort of get through that as quick as possible. So I'll probably be up till like, I usually finish at around, I don't like to spill over past 10 p.m. so I can at least have like an hour before bed where I'm not working.
Yeah.
But, it'll be a late one tonight, just getting as much content in the bag so that the rest of the week I can breathe.
Yeah.
And you can't be creative if you're stressed out, so it's like I'd rather be stressed out in the space of 2 days and then have 3 days where I can be creatively a bit more relaxed, and
Exactly.
so yeah, that's kind of how we do it, I suppose.
Brilliant.
There's not really much more to it than that.
No, well, there you go. So anyone out there listening and thinking with the usual excuses that all of us preneurs, whatever you want, whatever buzzword you want to put on us as content creators through music, that we don't have time to do it, we don't have this, we don't have that. There's not much to it. It's literally as simple as any other task that you need to get to. Just make it as simple as possible for yourself, and the kind of the fanciness will kind of come as it comes, I suppose. You touched on gear there. Now, what drew me initially to ASOMVEL was not how cool he sound. It was not anything to do with anything.
Of course not, mate. We're not good enough for that.
No. But I genuinely, it was to do with the fact that you play an Ibanez Destroyer bass. and that just
Ah,
makes
so
me
you mentioned, yeah.
that makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. I'm as well as being the biggest Van Halen fan and the biggest Ibanez fan, and
Yeah.
most of my guitars and everything are Ibanez. But what, like, is there a particular reason you went for the Destroyer? It just looks cool as fuck.
It's the latest. It's the latest edition, actually,
Is
to
it?
the collection. We've only had that maybe, I don't know, like, oh, it might be a year now. I mean, a year
Oh,
flies by, doesn't it? But like
yeah,
6 months, a year, I don't know.
yeah.
It's the latest edition. So, yeah, I saw that on, was it like Facebook Marketplace or something?
Class. I love that.
For like a few £100, like a steal, you know.
Yeah.
So drove down to get it, and it was. I didn't really know what to expect, how it would sound with the Marshall wall and all that. You know, it's all like Marshall bass gear, and it works really well with the Ricky and that Washburn bass I've got sounds great.
Yeah.
So you don't really know what you're gonna get, because sometimes you play something and you just think, oh, don't like it. You know, like
Yeah.
it's not. It sounded good when so and so played it, but not with me. You know. But what I'm noticing is in that rehearsal room that we got in our studio, it sounds absolutely phenomenal with the amps that I'm using.
Yeah.
It's like I was listening back to last night's rehearsal earlier today, and first thing I noticed was like, whoa, that bass tone though sounds absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, you can't beat it. It's definitely the go-to at this point. And like if it's in the shop, I'll use the other ones. But you know, that's like the main man.
The Destroyer is like I've only ever owned, like, you know, the small little mini Destroyers for like a guitar, and it's like so high up on my list of, like, my to-do list of, because I've got every other fucking shape imaginable. I just don't have.
Yeah, you got quite a few back there. It seems.
I have got, well, you can't really see it, but there's 12 or something on the wall, and then there's another like kind of 10 or something down there in on a rack, and then there's another 7 or 8 inside. It's like, you know, the way people have collections of stuff. I just have collections of guitars, and it's great. It makes
Can't fault you, mate.
It makes me really happy, because it's like, this is basically where I'm recording is basically a fancy little shed in my garden, and it's like, it's my tool shed. Do you know what I mean? Musicians can't do music without instruments, so
yeah, I think everyone's got like their kind of stupid little thing, whether it's like action figures or guitars, you know, like, or a little stamp collection, or
this is my stamp collection.
My grandma has these little awful blue and white plates that she has all around the top of the ceiling, you know, like on the shelf up there. So it's like, you know, we've all got some stupid little thing that we kind of enjoy adding to over time, you know.
Oh, we do, yeah. Oh, Jesus, yeah. And I hope to add a Destroyer to my stupid little obsession very, very soon. But hey ho,
Sounds good.
we digress. So you mentioned there, or maybe you didn't. I don't know if you did. Did you mention about tours? I don't know if you mentioned about tours before.
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. I'm going to bring
no mention of it.
I'm going to bring up the topic of tours in that case. So, you've toured in your 30-year existence of ASOMVEL. You've toured and stuff around South America, Japan, Europe, all over the place. Were you involved in that, or was that post or prior?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the juicy stuff came, you know, fortunately for me. I think it was just after we released the World Shaker album, you know, or maybe a little bit before as well. But
yeah,
you know, since I joined, we've been all over the shop, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Brazil was fun. Lenny would probably describe it as hellish.
Oh, really?
I mean, the thing is, like at that point, I wasn't vegan at that point. I'm vegan now, but Lenny was vegan when we went to Brazil, and you know, with the language barrier anyway, like it's usually, I mean, they're gonna think vegetarian, you know. Like I don't think they've got that distinction as much anyway, but they certainly didn't back then. So he was having a low blood sugar sort of nightmare, you know, like just scraping through the tour. I think we did like 8 flights in 7 days. Every gig was a fly-in, and we were going like up to like Recife and then back down to God, I can't remember where it was, but like Sao Paulo or somewhere like that. But it was just back and forth, you know, like who's planned this tour, like just scribbling on a map, like. And that's, to be fair, that would sum up, if you want to get the short story on tour. It's every tour, it's like someone's just scribbled on a map, and we just go there. That's where you're going, lads. Like in that order, really? Like, has this been planned by someone who hates us?
Yeah.
You know, but it's good fun. I think, I don't know if I'd have it any other way. You just got to embrace the madness, haven't you?
Yeah, we're going back to the thing about it's nowhere near as glamorous as it sounds. Like back in the days of Guns N' Roses and all them boys going around and touring the world in a private jet. That sounds glamorous-ish, but not if you're
Yeah.
doing like commercial flights. So like, are you in charge of booking your own tours, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we had a guy called Daniel at Dragon Productions for the last like maybe 3 years. Maybe he was doing based over in Germany, getting us a lot of stuff over in Europe,
Yeah.
all over really, but not so much in the UK. We weren't getting many UK dates at all,
All right.
and that was kind of one of the reasons that we decided we'll be without a booking agent for like a bit until we find a new one that can. Because of Brexit and stuff like that, like when we came back after COVID, we had a couple of tours that had actually been booked before and then postponed, and eventually we got around to doing them after COVID. And the immense amount of expenditure that we just couldn't afford, just from like stupid bits of paperwork you needed to get, like 200 quid for this and 200 quid for that, and like a carnet or whatever it is for all your gear. That you gotta, if you want to take your gear, you gotta weigh it all and itemize it all, and then pay 20% of what it's worth, and then you get it back, but only on the other. When you come back, you've got to have the money, and like we don't have that much to just put down on something, you know. And it was like, what the hell is all this, man? Like, and to like add insult to injury, the gigs that we were getting, it was just like a one-off festival. So you'd be doing all that, go to Sweden just to play one gig, and it's like, Jesus Christ, like I'm taking 4 days out of my life. We've all got like actual work stuff to do beyond just music as well. And spending all this money to do one gig. We were just like, I think we need a new booking agent that's going to get us stuff that just makes more sense, Daniel was great, and the shows that he was booking were really good, but it just felt like we needed something a little different. So the Marshall Live Agency stepped in recently. So they're busy at the moment, just sort of getting us some gigs that we can hopefully announce soon, and it's all looking good.
And how did that come about then, the Marshall Live Agency? We said before we started recording there that it's sort of it's not something that I've ever heard of. Everybody and their dog has heard of Marshall amps. Jeez, my man knows nothing about music and she knows about Marshall amps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I never knew anything about the Live Agency. So what's the story with that?
Well, we got an Instagram message, and I mean, this is just testament to like, I think it was on the back of one of the videos we put up on socials. You'd seen that Steve Tanner, who's like a head of label at Marshall Records and is like the co-owner of Marshall Live Agency. He liked one of the videos, and then subsequently messaged us, said, who's your guys' booking agent or whatever. I said, well, and it was literally like, I'm not kidding, maybe 2 weeks after we split with Dragon, and I was like, when you make those decisions, you feel like you're just diving off into the darkness, and you've got to have faith, Anytime you make a big decision like that, in my experience, it's just like a blind faith, but something's telling you, I need to move on from this,
And even though it is blind faith, you just have to trust in it, and you have to be okay that it is blind faith. You have to be okay with that, and that's it's a big thing.
Yeah, you feel. I feel personally like we're guided by something at this point, like that it'll be fine. Everything's going to work out okay. We just got to play our part in this and do the right things, make the right decisions. But ultimately, like you'll feel if it's the right decision. And sure enough, we left Dragon, and 2 weeks later, Steve Tanner messaged and he said, "Oh, give us a call." So we gave him a call, and a few weeks later, we went down, to Marshall HQ in Milton Keynes and had a chat with him and that, and that was great. We got a guy down there called Sam. He's a great kid, and he's sort of working on getting us some gigs and stuff like that. So yeah, it was great.
Class. And is that what
makes sense, doesn't it? Marshall.
It does. It really does make sense.
I think it makes sense for them. Like, and that was a lot of what they were saying was like, you're doing our advertising for us. It's like, yeah, fucking hell.
Yeah. And it's not even that you're or I don't know if it is, but maybe you're not even intentionally advertising Marshall. Do you know what I mean? But
it's the same way like you're passionate about collecting guitars and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's just
like, well, we've got it all. It's when we got that studio and we got it all in there. We're like, we've got a lot of this stuff, because previously it had been like, in the fucking dining room, snaking around, using it as a as a fucking dining table and
Yeah.
in the garage, and just all split up in wherever we could fit it. And then you get it all
Yeah.
together in this big room. We're like, holy hell, like,
Yeah.
it's impressive.
It's
And
cool as fuck. Like, it's cool as
it's
fuck.
good. I'm glad that I've spent every year since I was 15, the last 12 years, bankrupting myself to get more gear, because that's my thing, like that's what I'm passionate about.
And that's what you had to show for it. You've got a huge fucking wall of Marshalls that
Yeah.
every single kid growing up listening to AC/DC, or even like, I know Ingve is great for having fucking not even
Yeah,
walls,
yeah.
like towers of Marshalls.
Insane, isn't it?
Absolute insanity. Actually, that's a very, very just a slight tangent. There was it must have been Lenny done a video on how you daisy chain all the Marshalls together.
Yeah, that's right.
Brilliant. And that, do you know what, that spoke to my inner 14-year-old, because me as a 14-year-old, I was like,
Yeah.
but you only get one cable out of the
This
guitar.
was us like a few years ago, man, and we figured it out from, well, we used to go to gigs like 2016 or 2017 or something. And I remember we had the conversation like, right, this was just after I joined the band, I think. Let's get all these Marshalls, as many as we can, and get them on that stage. And we're like, oh, well, we don't really put all their Marshalls on the stage because it's bullshit. We're only using like one stack. So why would we put them all on? We don't want to be like knobheads,
Yeah.
So I remember I was just Googling, and the amount of like iterations of this setup that we've gone through, like with little ABY like splitter boxes and 99 quid sort of jobbies, which is quite cheap compared to the things we got now. But I think even what we got now is it might only be about 200 quid, and it's like a 6-way splitter, and then that goes off into like another 6-way splitter, so you can get like 11 amps out of it or whatever. We've not got the setup we want, which I think is about $2,000. You can get this proper like rack mounted radial engineering thing that I think that's what all the big bands use. But we've got some like poor man's version of that, and just figuring that out and kind of having that penny drop moment, like, oh, hang on. And then when we tried it and it worked, and it's like 1 amp, turn the next one on. Oh my God, like there's nothing like it, mate,
Yeah.
And then you get the taste for it, because you're like, when does this end?
Yeah.
It never needs to end. We can just keep going.
Yep. 100%.
I think I'm running like 6 Marshall stacks in rehearsals now. It's a right laugh, That's just for bass,
Yeah, that's so much fun. I saw one time Aerosmith. I don't know how I saw it or where it was or what it was, but Joe Perry he could have had 15 amps, all totally different, totally different. And at one stage he went over and he just turned something on one. And I was like, how in under fuck have you picked that out? You know what I mean? It's probably the same thing as what he's been through, trial and error with that. Like, just like, these are our toys as grown-ups. This is what we play with. And he's just
it's like that. It's just big Lego, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's class. So yeah, that one really spoke to me. It spoke to my inner 14-year-old, because I like I said, I remember thinking, I was like, wait, fuck, there's only one. And then it was like, maybe it's like a splitter cable, but then I was like, no, that looks silly coming about.
Yeah.
Well, look, there you go.
Straight up, honestly, mate, it's the most fun. We were at a venue just setting up for a music video a month ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was there setting up the amps with my brother, Stel, and we were just like, this bit is just as fun as playing. Like, this is just great fun, plugging it all in, getting all ready. It's like, honestly, it's a huge passion. I think that's what people like, the detractors and the naysayers will kind of lose that. It doesn't make sense, like you could probably get a similar result from, if you're going to use 6 Marshall stacks, okay, we'll only use 3. It's not going to make a much difference. Certainly, front of house wise, like you could probably use a fucking, Helix or whatever it is.
Yeah, front of house make no difference whatsoever.
Like, but for that feeling that you get on stage, I'll argue till my death that there's no real substitute for a huge wall of Marshalls behind you.
Yeah.
But in spite of that, even if it made 0 sense, I love it. When we love it, and it's like, and I think that's what people don't get. It's like, this is fun, man.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't need to do that. Like, don't be stupid. I'm having fun. Fuck off.
Yeah. You don't work music. You play music. It's meant to be fun.
Exactly.
That's yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. Speaking of some of those, like, we're not going to call them challenges, but like, call it whatever you want. Lugging 6 Marshall stacks just for your bass, that's fucking hard out going. That is, do you know what I mean? There's work involved in that, contrary to
Yeah.
what you said, but there's work involved in that. What are some of the other, we will call these challenges, that you guys face as like an independent band? Not, I was going to say struggling. That's not the word. An independent band that's like in 2023 blurring the lines between musician, content creator, manager. Can
Yeah.
keep on going as long as you want with that list.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a big part of it for us way back when, before like TikTok and that whole style of content that we started doing,
Yeah,
became like the open door to success that we now see it as.
yeah,
We were just posting bits on Facebook and stuff like that. We'd record a video and we'd do everything we could to make this music video as great as it could be, and we'd post it out there, and we'd just sort of sit there with our arms folded and we'd say, that's brilliant, give me my record deal. That was our mindset,
No, there, one record deal, please.
Yeah, like, look at how ace that is. Give us a record deal then, because then you'd see bands that you thought, okay, well, we've got as many fans as them, or whatever it is. Like, we should have what they have. They're signed to this label. Okay, maybe we could have that. Post your video. I'll take my record deal now. And it's just so naive, because I think that whole mindset is completely flawed. That somebody's just going to come along and kind of reach down and pull you up out of the shit and just say, star. Like, I don't feel like that's realistic, and I'm glad that we've kind of got out of that mindset. And I think where we're at now is just like, keep putting out the content, keep doing the work, and if someone takes notice, someone like Marshall Live Agency, for instance, if someone takes notice to help you out, or, maybe a record label's interested or whatever, then that's a good thing. But I think if you can set yourselves up so that even if all those people continue to ignore you forever, you can still reach the fans. So like for us, there's going to come a point where, regardless of how long the industry decides it wants to ignore us, it won't matter, because we're still reaching the fans. So then you go, well, why do we need them anyway? It's a nice bonus, sure, but like, and with that kind of work ethic, where you're not expecting someone to come and pull you out of the shit and hand it to you on a plate, then you start to see that, okay, this is going to be work, because we're not just putting our all into this short-term thing, a music video or an album or whatever, and hoping that that's the thing. And it's, since we got out of that mindset, it's a daily mission to kind of prove ourselves, so you're juggling between like your sort of work stuff, your music, your writing, rehearsing, and doing all your content, and then just actually having a life, going in and getting the food shop and doing your fucking housework and cutting your grass, and having a relationship and whatever else, and that's the stuff like that really, it's like it gets minimized and minimized and minimized, and there'll be times where it's like, I mean, look, I told my girlfriend that I would cut the grass tonight, right? Candidly, that's what I said. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. She's stressing. I'll cut the grass. It's been like 3 weeks. But I also now know, because I've got this meeting after this, that it's potentially,
not gonna happen.
I don't know. I'll do it. It just means I'll be up a lot later editing content and stuff like that. And it's just the constant battle of priorities. I've got a real life where happen, musician stuff has to happen. And it has to happen. So it's a bit of a balancing act, but it's worth it, because if you want it bad enough, anything's worth it.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how I feel anyway.
It's like you said, the balancing act. It's sort of like we said earlier on, being a musician nowadays doesn't count for anywhere near as much as it did 15, 20 years ago. Being a record label equally counts for probably less nowadays. Like, it's still obviously, lovely thing to have, but it's just that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think because like I was saying, we've got that direct link now to the fans. there's only so much extra a record label could ever really do. You know, it's certainly a small percentage from what we're capable of doing if we hit with the right music video and the right content around that. And you know, we're constantly on there replying to every single comment, you know, and stuff like that. It's like I think that's where it's at. And that's fulfilling in itself, you know. It's like getting to know your fans. And I feel like if someone had just handed it to us on a plate like 5 years ago, and said, "Here's your record deal. Love that music video you posted on Facebook," we'd have lost out on that kind of awakening to, okay, this is how we do it. We just post every day and we interact with our fans and get to know them, and that's great in itself, in its own right. Like, that is fucking great. That it's like we'll never stop doing that, you know. Even if someone comes down in the next 10 minutes and says, "Here's your record deal, you're signed to Universal, and we're going to do all your promo for you now, and you're going to be on this TV show and this TV show, and you're world famous, hooray," you know. Even at that point, we're still on there replying to as many comments as we possibly can, and posting the same sort of stuff, you know. It's like, it's more than just a way of getting somewhere. You know, it's part of the whole thing now. People like us because of that. So it's a bit of a betrayal, right? If we actually fucking get somewhere on the back of it, and then stop doing it. It's like, well, what the fuck, you know?
100%.
So you were just doing it because you wanted to get something out of it. And I think if something's done with that intent, you can probably tell anyway, and thus you'll never get anything out of it. But you know, I feel like it's not only have I gone from someone who's like, oh, not doing that, to someone who's prepared to do it, but now I'm someone who enjoys it, and I've taken it on as part of my identity, for, you know, want of a better way of putting it. It's part and parcel of the whole thing now, you know.
It's nice to know that someone that's in your position, someone that has a fan base, really enjoys interacting with the fans as much as the fans enjoy interacting with you. I honestly thank me lucky stars every single day that I get to do the podcast and get to talk to people just like you, and people that I've like admired since I was like, for example, I was able to speak with Billy Sheen from Mr. Big. Mr. Big are one of my favorite bands in the whole world. Now, he's not been on the podcast yet, but I've been hounding him for the best part of a year. But the fact that I sent him a message, and he's been one of my heroes since I was a child. And then he sent a message back to me, and he knows that I now exist in the world. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing to me. So, and I'm sure there's people out there in the world that feel exactly the same about you. Do you know what I mean? That you have taken the time to see their comments. You now know.
That's what baffles me, you know, is that you will get that kind of response. I replied to an Instagram message like a couple of days ago, and this kid says, "Oh my God, can't believe you replied." And I thought, like, oh, well, I don't know. I feel like it should be more normal. I understand for bands like, you know, Metallica, I don't expect James Hetfield to be sat on his sofa every night. Like,
how's he getting on?
Yeah, you know, it is more or less a one-way street. It's that kind of one-sided relationship, I suppose. And, you know, in the position that we're in right now, there's absolutely no reason on God's green earth why it needs to be that way.
No.
Yeah, it means that I mean, like this morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., got to the gym for about 8, but between 6 and half 7, I was just replying to comments.
It's
like an hour and a half in a morning of just pure, like, replying to comments. And, like, you know, I feel like there'll be times when our manager, Deb, will say, "Oh, do you want me to, like, reply to a few comments? I noticed there's loads. You must be stressed out." And I had this kind of conversation with her. I said, well, it feels like it's defeating the point, really. It's turning it from, like, this thing that we do to just, like, it's just bullshit. You want to think that you're speaking to the band, and you want to know that that's the case. And so there'll be fans on there that I've maybe said something to the day before, and they'll bring it up like as a bit of a joke or whatever, you know, and I can reply and actually have the context and know who that person is. I'll know that we saw him at our gig in London a few months ago, or you know what I mean. It feels like, well, we can do that, so why the fuck shouldn't we?
It's decent,
isn't it? You know,
it is. I've spoken about it a couple of times, and again, I think the pandemic sort of sealed the deal for, like you say, for that sort of stuff. And it's good to know that it's the one sort of silver lining that I've taken out of it, is that there is that kind of almost community sense of,
Yeah.
I'm Barry in my shed recording a podcast, and you're Ralph from ASOMVEL on the other end of that
Yeah,
podcast.
like the world's
You know what
got
I
a
mean?
hell of a lot smaller, you know. I mean,
So
we
much
were talking
smaller.
about like the music scenes and stuff like that the other day, me and Lenny, and like, you know, there's like a scene down in London or whatever. But it extends far beyond that now
Yeah,
because
it's like
everyone's friends with everyone on Instagram and they all go for these like meetups, you know, at certain gigs, and it's like it never used to be that like that, you know. And I
no,
think that's definitely has intensified now. Where I mean, there was that whole thing of like musicians like live streaming gigs and stuff during COVID and stuff like
yeah,
that, and you know, I use like bands in town to go and log on like and put whatever dates we're doing. I put them on there,
mm.
and it gives you the option: is this gig like a live stream event? Like it never used to say that, and
Ah,
so it's like a new thing. Like and a lot of venues have started with, you know, just playing with that kind of technology if they've got the funding these days. But
yeah,
you know, to kind of well, I guess that's another way because people aren't getting the tickets necessarily. Oh well, maybe if we live stream the gig, then we charge a certain amount or whatever. Like, you
yeah,
know, it's all invariably headed in that direction. Not to say that that means the death of every single real world interaction and we're just, you know,
yeah,
forced to live behind a screen, but certainly that bit behind the screen is way more important now than it ever has been.
yeah,
So, you know, if you know that, then naturally it follows that posting daily TikTok videos or something like that, it makes sense, you know?
yeah, yeah. What's next for ASOMVEL then, Ralph? What's on the cards? You've got a new album that you're working on, is that right?
Yes. So just today, actually, I was down in the studio. We've got all the track titles. Finally, I think there's like 13 of them, and we're just working through ticking off the boxes essentially. You know, has it got lyrics? Has it got a second guitar part? Just so we can get to that point where we've all got like a demo of
Yeah,
every single
yeah,
track, a really good solid demo. You know, and we're going into the studio in a couple of weeks to record the two that we think are the furthest along. Still got a bit
right.
of work to do, so better get cracking. But you know, the ones that feel more like singles, so we'll sort of release them, and then by end of year we should have the album recorded. And you know, I think at this point we'll see whatever label's interested. I know we've had a bit of interest, but I guess we'll decide when we've got the finished thing, and we can say, look, here it is. Do you want to help us distribute it or not? You know,
Yeah,
I mean, like I say, there's a lot that we can do just because of the social media following and stuff like that. So
of course.
you know, we'll see what comes our way, really.
Well, I wish you all the best success, and I can't wait to hear it when it does come out. I
Yeah,
think
I'll have to send you a copy, mate.
I would love that. I'd
Yeah,
absolutely love that.
message me your address. We'll send you on when it's finally done.
Oh, well, thanks very
You
much. I
know,
appreciate that. I'd love that. That'd be great. Thank you very much. And as I say, I
cool.
wish you all the best of luck with it. And I can't wait for it to come out. Let's start finishing up here. We're going to jump into a quick fire round, and it is going to be a quick fire round. My quick fire rounds for the past year have been not very quick at all. But
You've got me on your side, mate. I'm very quick. I'm heavily caffeinated right now. I've burned through a Diet Coke and half a coffee while I've been here, mate. So
see those iced lattes. My bandmate introduced me to an iced latte about 6 weeks ago, and it's the best thing that anybody has ever done for me in my
wow,
life. I can't get enough of them. They're amazing.
you've
Absolutely
spilled it
amazing.
all over your white T-shirt as well, mate.
Ah, very good. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Right. Let's jump into a quick fire round. So, silly questions that have no bearing on anything at all. Just answer. Right. Are you a
Okay.
morning person or a night owl?
Oof, that is a complete 50-50. My sleep schedule is determined largely by whatever the hell I'm doing at the time. I can be a morning person. I'm very good at it.
Yeah.
And I'm very good at being a night owl. So you know, I got it all, baby.
Okay. City life or countryside?
City life. Countryside's too boring, isn't it? After a while.
I always find it's just too far away. If I need to drive to the pub, what's the point?
Yeah. I mean, I got this coffee from Deliveroo, mate. You know what I mean?
I see. We
That
are literally.
says it all.
This is the future. See, when we were kids and growing up, and we were like thinking what the future would look like. This is what the future looks like. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? We can get a coffee delivered to us from someone in a car, and brings it to you. And if you said
Impeccable,
that to
innit?
someone back in 1996, they'd laugh at you.
It's not all bad, is it? You know,
Not all bad.
There's good sides to this dystopia that we live in. You know,
There certainly is. Is there one skill that you wish you had?
God, what was I thinking of the other day where I was like, I want to learn that. Music production. Yeah, I was. This is something that I eventually would like to learn when I have more time, more money, and just generally, you know, it'll happen at the right time.
Yeah.
Because that's such a large part of your sound, you know. I mean, I do all the stuff in our studio, all the stuff we put out on social media, like rehearsal videos and stuff. That's all edited by me, but I don't really know what I'm doing. I do that in Premiere Pro, you know. It's like, you know, get all the different channels on there, like 16 different channels, and just change the levels and take a bit of that frequency out. But I don't really know what I'm doing, but it'd be nice to know and be able to kind of do that, you know.
Most of it is getting the sound right from the source. All production is correction, really. So you're further ahead than an awful lot of engineers I would know. So you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Let's finish off on one more question, and this is, as I say, it's always my favorite question. What celebrity would you like to fight?
See, when you said what celebrity, I instantly thought Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then but then you said, would you like to fight? And then I thought, oh no,
that'd be some guy. Like he's none now. In fairness, he's old. He's not gone.
Oh, I could take him. Yeah, I could take him. Thanks for believing in me, mate.
Fuck Yarny. Come on.
I could take that old cunt. And there'd be I could get T-shirts printed then, like, you know, I kicked the shit out of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who's your daddy? You know, with like a sort of like a hunter with my foot on his head. You know,
that's the job. You could be dressed as Conan the Barbarian.
There you go.
That's not too much of a stretch, I don't think. And then people would tell you that you're ripping off Arnie rather than Lemmy.
I mean, it's all making sense to me, mate.
It's a win-win-win.
It's starting to make sense now.
There you go. Now, Ralph, where can people find you if they are looking for you, looking for ASOMVEL? Where's the best place to send them?
Get your ass over to anywhere that you consume mindless, pointless short form videos. It'll be at ASOMVEL, and good luck spelling that as well. But I'm sure you can figure it out if you're that interested.
Ralph, you're an absolute legend. Thank you very much for your time today. Fair play to you.
Nice one, mate. Good speaking to you.
That was the Music Career Show. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your friends about the Music Career Show.